We'll start with one of the big boys then, because actually there's quite a lot on this one, and that is performance. So we've got a paper here from 2021, so really recent, and it's titled "Effects of Ashwagandha or Withania somnifera," which is what it's really called apparently, and it's on physical performance. It's a systematic review and a Bayesian meta-analysis. Bayesian meta-analysis is essentially something that's a bit more mathy. It's grown in use quite a lot. It's actually become quite more popular from what I've seen online anyway. But it's a bit more. How would you describe it? They kind of like try and predict stuff more.
Yeah,
it's essentially what it is. But if you know more about it, Google it. But it's still obviously a good form of data. So they only used placebo-controlled papers in this study, which is obviously a good thing to use, because if you're not compared to placebo, then there's loads of bias involved. And doses ranged from 120 milligrams to 1,250 milligrams a day, which actually isn't too hard to consume in commercially sold doses, which is a good thing to see anyway. The included studies revealed that ashwagandha supplementation was more efficacious than placebo for improving variables related to physical performance in healthy men and female. This includes things like strength, power, CV fitness, fatigue, and recovery. So essentially, from that paper there, it may help. However, we have to look at some limitations here, because every paper will have some sort of limitations, and they basically come out with this systematic review and meta-analysis had certain limitations. The low number of studies published to date, as Tom said, there's not been that many. Obviously there's some other bullshit you don't need to know about, and there were considerable differences in the exercise training experience among the participants included in the analysed studies. So that makes it very difficult as well to be conclusive, because the fact there was differences, different exercises, different that all takes into that will make a big impact basically on the results. And was it this paper? What paper was it? Was it this one where you saw the conflict of interest as well?
Oh, that one was actually a paper that was linked via a blog post, which was then linked via Goli. Yeah, and straight away, the conflict of interest was it was something out of this world. Like all of the researchers involved were all involved in
ashwagandha products.
Herbal nutritional companies. So straight away, look, I'm not saying that you've got to sweep their findings under the rug straight away, but straight away that does ring alarm bells to me.
Yeah. But this paper here, though, we started with this one because out of all of them, probably it seems to be quite. Yeah, it's quite good. It's not super fucking amazing, but it shows, as Tom said, it means you can't rule it out in that regard, because there is obviously some positives to be taken from that. Just want to quickly note that first paper I just mentioned wasn't one of the ones Goli cited, probably because it's quite new, so they haven't got to that one yet. But the next one is also about performance, and this one is one Goli did cite, and this one's reference athletic performance, all that sort of stuff again. So this one is the effects of ashwagandha withania somnifera again on VO2 max.
That was a good pronunciation, Bill. I just want to say well done on that.
I'm getting good at these, aren't I?
You are.
A systematic review and meta-analysis 2020. So this paper found that ashwagandha supplementation might improve the VO2 max in athletes and not non-athlete people. However, further research is needed to confirm this hypothesis, since the number of studies is limited, once again, and the heterogeneity, so that means the variability, was high, which is obviously not a good thing. You don't want a lot of variability in your results, in your findings, because that throws things off fucking massively. You should be like, well, is it, what is the result? The doses in this paper range from 330 up to 1,000 milligrams a day. Interestingly though, so Goli have cited this paper, right, which the minimum they use is 330. Goli ashwa products have 150 milligrams per gummy, and it's recommended that you take 2 a day, which is 300 milligrams. So they're citing a paper which is higher dosed than what they recommend, which is quite interesting, because that's not. I wouldn't be happy with that. If you're citing a paper which you'd at least try and hit the minimum. You'd try and hit the scientifically proved, well, not proved, but the scientifically suggested. Suggested. Suggested dose. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting observation there. And the second paper they cited suggested it may improve VO2 max levels during the 20-meter shuttle test. This one was 49 subjects. Dosing was 300 milligrams taken twice daily, so 600 milligrams. So it's double the recommended dose, they say. So you need 4 gummies a day to match it. So once again, they're citing a study which requires more than what they recommend in their products. Which once again, brilliant. I just want to note though, due to limited cross-section of the population considered in that study, the findings may not generalise to all populations. So further studies are needed to validate those findings. And I've noticed a lot of these studies, they seem to be done in like the India region on Indians, and that's obviously one population, and you can't generalise it sort of globally based on one population.
because other things can affect your findings, whether it be
of course,
your diet, etc.
The environment in your location, like fucking go China, mate.
Location,
fucking smog.
exactly.
Dear God.
Yeah, honest to God.
But this is why it's important that you when you get these studies, they're everywhere, so you can get a good solid basis
test with as many variables as possible: gender, male, female, age ranges. As I said, people keep getting pissed off that it seems to them in their mind that studies are being replicated all the time. It's we'll tell someone we don't know, just simply because they've now tested resistance training in people above the age of 50. And it's like, well, this isn't the same studies that you keep getting, thrown in your face. We're now doing it in different populations, so to speak. And exactly like this as well. We don't just want to see things in one population. We want to see it worldwide, where different genetics can play a role. How much sunlight you might get. Does your diet, which, let's be honest with you, when you come to places like, the East and the West, etc., makes a massive difference as well. Yeah, we need to constantly replicate this stuff. Constantly. Yeah. I'm in a bit of a rage at the moment because I keep seeing people complaining about replicated studies. So, I'm on a rough one tonight.
We'll move on to the next one, which is sleep. So we spoke about sleep quite a lot in the past. It should be one of the basics in terms of like your recovery and your health. And I'd really recommend. We actually had a really good conversation with a coach, Dean Hammond, about this. And he went over things like the power down hour, which is like an actionable plan you can take to really improve your sleep. That's over at chatshitgetfit.com/sleep. So I'll probably recommend, go listen to that if you want to hear sort of our thoughts on sleep and why you should be looking at the basics before you even think about taking anything. To help your sleep. But if you really want to take something like ashwagandha, for example, we'll have a look and see if this bad boy can actually do anything. So we've got a study here from 2019, and the subject size was 60 with a dose of 300 milligrams taken twice daily, so 600 milligrams again. Brilliant. I just love how they keep citing shit which has got more than they recommend, but that's life. Just want to make a note though, there are other products which do contain more ashwagandha. So bulk, for example, you might have heard of bulk powders. They do an ashwagandha product which has 500 milligrams in each capsule. So if you took two of those,
I've seen one where it's 960.
Yeah, so some of them will have higher dosage. So that obviously you could take those.
This is another reason why I want to see so much more replication in these studies, so we can kind of find out what dosage does what, depends on what our goals are. So I want to lower anxiety. Then I want to be taking this amount of dosage. I want it for sport performance, in which case I want to be taking this amount of dosage. Yeah,
that's what we need.
So
that's But that study, the sample size was large enough to extract some sort of statistical inference, and it did, but it wasn't basically enough to draw a general conclusion that we can sort of generalize for the entire population. But it showed a bit of a difference. But once again, it's enough. You should be looking at the basics first before you start taking things like this, which aren't concrete. And then I want to just add on to this. So they linked another study on sleep as well. But comically, I mean, this is just fucking outrageous now. The second link is the exact same fucking paper, but just on a different website. I kid you fucking not. It's the same study, but it's a different website. So, like you'll get Springer or you'll get PubMed. It was like literally like that. They had one on PubMed and they had the same way. It's like you've literally just fucking got a different website and you've just to bulk out their citation page. I think that's just fucking. But what that does reinforce
they don't expect people to click it.
Yeah. But you know what it does reinforce, Tom? It reinforces that you said the limited amount of papers really out there that they've had to they've had to literally copy and paste it.
The exact same
thing. To bulk out their fucking citation page, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
I know exactly what the issue is, and it is that we live in a society.
Oh, for fuck's sake! We need to get a T-shirt sorted and get it for our patrons. That's what we need.
Yeah. Can we get sued by the Joker? To be fair, he never actually said it, did he?
Not in the actual cinematic release, no.
Not in the cinematic.
Yeah, it's a trailer, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a bit of a touchy subject, isn't it?
Well, we'll be all right.
We'll be
okay. We've said it. We've said worse.
We've said it.
We've said worse. But just to quickly conclude sleep, really, I mean, I get the whole appeal to nature fucking fallacy and all that of taking some, root, which will fucking help you sleep. But let's be honest, if you are suffering with things like insomnia, I can appreciate it might be you want to turn things, but just go see a doctor, because there'll be things out there which are actually backed, which are there made to help you with things like insomnia. And ashwagandha at the moment isn't. What did you say?
What?
That sounded a bit rapey. What?
Morphine.
Oh.
Horlicks.
Oh, God, here we go. Horlicks.
Well, it's true. Have you fucking ever had a mug of Horlicks before bed?
I did, yeah.
Shit knocks
but didn't you mention that in a past episode, Horlicks, when it was something completely different, and you said it like...
I might have been after a sponsorship. That's when we were just casting our net into the ocean, seeing what we could dredge out for sponsors.
we'll move on to the next one, and this one is heart function. So I think fucking this is just typical. This is just comical, right? So Goli has literally cited the same fucking study again, but in different format. So study 1 and 2, once again, the exact same paper, but what they've done is they've used the earlier one. They've used the one they cited earlier about VO2 max. They've used the same study in heart function section, and they've done it twice. I mean, you're taking the fucking... So they've used the same study 3 fucking times with 3 different links to back up a... I mean, they're just taking the piss now, aren't they?
I mean, sorry to say, but I'm just flicking through some of these studies, and there is actually one study that shows that a reduction in OCD.
A reduction in OCD?
Yeah, a reduction in OCD. It does say that the study needs replication, which once again confirms my thoughts on it as well. Yeah. But yeah.
Fuck's sake. Speaking of OCD, the next one is memory. So they've got one study which they quoted, it was behind a paywall, but thanks to the super duper Minecraft library, I got full access, and I'll be honest, it's pretty underwhelming. They looked at numerous memory tests and they compared it to a placebo, which is obviously a good thing. But it was only better in some areas, and it was fairly inconsistent. So the dose once again was 600 milligrams taken 300 taken twice to make 600. But yeah, it wasn't very consistent. Once again, yeah, that would need replicating. But yeah, memory not great. And then finally, we'll talk about weight management. So obviously we did that one at first for apple cider vinegar. We'll do this one last for ashwagandha. So one study Goli cited is more actually about reducing stress than it is about weight management. But as we know, stress can have an impact on weight management. Yeah. And they basically discussed how limiting stress can reduce things like overeating, which is obviously a common thing when people gain weight. It was a small study though, but it basically concluded that it may be helpful with those with chronic stress. So what I note that's just quite a specific. I mean, just because you're stressed because you've had a hard day at work is a bit different to chronic stress. Chronic stress is obviously a bit more serious. So,
I mean,
they also basically added. Go on.
I was just going to say, even in regards to things like, sports performance and stuff like that, I mean, one of the biggest, when we talk about things like load management, it's not just literally, let's just say in training, it's not literally just the weight you're lifting. Load management is also other stressors. So things like, anxiety, stress and stuff like that. Even when we talk about injury, one of the things that can affect that is stress, So, if you could take something like ashwagandha, which might lower your stress levels or your anxiety, etc., then technically that could be a part of managing load management as well. So it's something to consider. I mean, when we're talking about the one study here I kind of saw in regards to what we talk about with dosages, etc., in regards to lowering anxiety, I mean, the conclusion was basic, 600 milligrams of ashwagandha extract, full spectrum, so it's important I mention that, for 60 days in persons with chronic mental stress was able to improve all tested parameters and reduced serum cortisol by 27.9%. So what I like about that, it wasn't just subjective. It wasn't like they just said, on a scale 1 to 10, like how fucking stressful do you feel now? They actually measured cortisol, and it was reduced by 20 nearly
that's good.
Rounded up 28%. So I quite like that.
So a good point I want to follow on from that. You said obviously they measured cortisol was more accurate. Is this paper here when they said about the chronic stresses, they actually mentioned that for future things it'd be useful to measure additional parameters such as serum, leptin and ghrelin levels involved in appetite regulation. Because if they can measure those, if you'll see a reduction in those or an increase, whatever, you can then actually get a clear indication of, okay. Yeah, you're like, okay, well, your actual levels have changed to show that your appetite's been reduced.
Something physical has changed. It's no longer just buyer's bias.
Yeah, buyer's bias, that old chestnut.
There you go. Something actual has changed.
So hopefully, like you said with the cortisol one there, where they actually showed a real change, hopefully they could do the same with appetite regulation, which then, if that gets repeated, then maybe. But at the moment, there's obviously nothing like that, so we can't obviously say.
That's the thing. We need more replication of these studies. So, as I said, for anxiety and stress, it's something that I don't know. Maybe I would kind of try it out in regards to
your performance, mate. Is it a couple of small things of performance as well? Yeah.
In regards to direct sports performance, is something if I've got the money for it, I could consider it and see what happens. I'm not going to place a bet on it just yet to say that it does.
It's not magic.
Something.
It's not magic by any means.
Yeah. But I would like to see more stuff on this. It's something that I'm going to, put more interest in keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I'll keep it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be a pleasant surprise.
If you want to listen to the full audio podcast where we go more in depth on apple cider vinegar and ashwagandha, taking a closer look at the current scientific evidence to see basically if they actually work and if it's worth your money to actually get involved with these products, then check out the description down below and there'll be a link for the full audio podcast. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you're notified next time we release a brand new video. See you on the next one.